Everybody. So today we're going to be working on our September 2013 Copic coloring card kit, and this month I've picked this super cute Sassy Cheryl stamps stamp set, and it's called True Friendship. It comes with the main image, the girl, and then it also has a little birdhouses and all three of these butterflies, and then it also comes with a saying. And I like these because they're well, they're red rubber, but I like that they come on this little plastic card that you can keep them stored on, put them in a binder, maybe punch some holes, or put them in a little plastic sleeve, or however you store them. But I like that it comes with this little plastic thing. So I've already stamped my images on Neenah 80-pound Slow White cardstock. So let's color. Alright, so let's start out by outlining our image, and for that I'm going to use B000, quadruple 0, and my color is Splendor. And I'm going to start with B000. And I'm going to say that this side of my girl is going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of my shadow right along this side of her leg. And I'm going to also add some clouds later on. So this little outline is just so I don't have to get quite so close with my cloud template. I'm just going to go right along her. Oops. And just add a little bit of this dark color along the edge here. And I think I'll add just a little bit in here, and maybe a little bit right next to my little rabbit here. Okay. And I'm liking how that looks, so I'm going to leave it like that. Then I'm going to grab my B quadruple 0, and I'm just going to go all the way around my girl now. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to brush right over this color I already laid down. And we're going to pull that out here into the white. So I want to do this side of her leg too this time. And then we'll go all the way around our girl. So I'm going to go down here. Brush right next to that rabbit. And I'm not being really too neat and tidy. I've touched it a couple of times, but I'm not worried because it's such a light color that I'll just go back with my colorless blender when I'm going around the whole thing and brush it off. And I think I'll go over here and do this side now. Just adding a little bit of color around the outside. She's got a little piece of hair right there that is the sky's poking through, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And same with right here on this little part of that little bow. And then, of course, the inside of this bow. And we're just going to go all the way until we meet up with our other side over here. Like that. Then I'm going to take my colorless blender, and like I said, I wasn't worried about touching anything because now I can erase it, but I'm just going to take it and go in a circle and color over the entire area that I colored. And I'm making sure to go past the edge of the line so that it softens the edge up. And same for over here where I've got these two colors together. I'm just brushing over the entire thing and swirling them all together. And this works really good if your blender pen is wet. So if it's getting dried out, you might want to refill it. I keep the jumbo bottle available so that I don't have to worry about running out because I use my colorless blender quite a bit. And I'm just going to go all the way back around, blend that edge a little bit more, swirl down here. And that's all there is to the outline. So next, let's give her something to stand on, and for that I'm going to use G85, G46, and G24. And I'm going to start with my G85, and I don't want my ground to stop right here at the bottom, and I went down a little too far with my my blue, but since this is such a dark green, it's going to be perfect for covering that up. So I'm going to say the ground's going to kind of fall back here where her little sock is. So I'm just going to bring my line just like this over to the edge. And then I'm going to connect the dot on this side. And I know it goes past this grass that Cheryl's already drawn for us, but I didn't care about that. So like that. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of shadow underneath of her. So we're just going to brush a little bit of this really dark green out here. And I'm trying not to touch her shoe, because it is kind of dark. And then for these little grass blades, I'm just going to go ahead and draw a little bit of a line on there. Then I'm going to go with G46, and I'm going to brush right over the entire top of that area I already colored. Just bring that out a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and go right along this line at the top too. And then I'm going to grab G24, and I want to fill in the rest, so I'm going to go ahead and just brush right over the top of the edge of that last color, and I'm going to color clear to the edge of my piece. And I'm kind of messy, so I'm glad I have a piece of paper underneath of my work, because I'm coloring right off the side. And go back over it and soften some of those streaky lines a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So now I want to add a few grass blades, so I'm going to grab my G85, and it's kind of like a check mark. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to very lightly take my pen, and I'm holding it straight up and down. And I'm going to touch the pin, and I'm just going to go like a little check mark and add some blades of grass. And remember, the longer your pin sits on there, the wider your lines are going to be. So I'm trying to be really quick. Like that one's pretty fat. And just add them wherever you want those to go. And then I'm going to grab G46 and do the same thing. So let's add some little patches. Grass in here. And you can add as many or as few as you would like. You can also go in here and add a few little streaks in some of these other blades you'd already put down. And that gives her some grass to stand on. So next, let's go work on our skin, and for that I'm going to use E21, E00, and E000. For her cheeks, I'm going to use R22, R20, and R30, and this is just my favorite skin tone at the moment. I have a few others listed over on the blog, on the sidebar under Copic skin tones, if you wanted to try some different ones out. But let's go down here. I'm going to start on her leg. So let's go ahead and do her arms and legs first. So I'm going to grab E21, and I want to put down where I have my shadow. So I'm going to go underneath of her dress, and then I'm just going to draw a small line on the back of her leg right here. Same for this side. I'm going to draw a little line on under her dress, and then go down that leg. And then let's go up here and add, since that's such a small area, I'm going to go ahead and add some to her arm. So I'm going to go right next to her sleeve, and then I'm going to go right up her hand, down each of these little fingers. And she's got a little crease right here in her hand. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do the back of this thumb. And then she's got a couple little pleats right there in her hand where her hand is like folded over. And for this arm, she's got a little bit of her arm showing right underneath this rabbit. I'm going to just fill that in. And then I'm going to go right next to where the arm of the rabbit is. And then I'm going to come down the bottom of her hand. And I'm going to get each of those little fingers a little bit. And let's do her wrist just a little bit. Like that. Then I'm going to grab E00. And I want to touch down on top of my E21. And I'm just going to add some color to it. Like I'm going to leave just a little patch at the top there for my lightest color. Same for this side. Brush a little bit on top of that E21. And we'll go up here and do the same thing for her arm. Brush right over that last color. And leave a little bit of white in there for our little lightest color. And I'm going to grab E000 and we're going to fill in her leg. And same for her arm. And this arm. Like that. So next, let's go up here and work on her face and her neck. So let's go back with our E21. I'm going to add a little bit right along the sleeve or her collar. And then for her face, I'm going to go ahead and add a dab just a little bit on this side. Go up here to her ear. I also want to go along her bangs. She's got a couple little dips that it looks like her hair's not touching it, so I'm going to go in there. And then her ear. And this side of her face over here is, since she's looking up, I'm going to make this side a little bit more shadowed. So I'm going to go ahead and turn her so I can flick my pen. By flicking it this way, I have more ink right next to the edge, and as my hand comes up, it's getting lighter out here towards the edge. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my E00, and we're going to go down here and we're going to touch down on the 21, and then I'm just going to lightly brush out here into my white, but I want to leave a little bit of white space for my lightest color still. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing up here. I'm just going to brush right along that edge. Ear right there. I'm going to turn her this way so I can flick again. So again, I'm going to flick on this side. So I'm touching down on my 21, and then as I pull out, I'm going past the 21. But as my pen lifts up, I'm leaving less ink at the very edge. Got a little bit of a line still there. Go over that one more time. And then I'm going to grab E000. We're going to fill in her chest. And I'm going to go down here and do her face. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now let's do some cheek color. So for that I'm going to grab my R22. And let's do a little bit... Give her a little circle right here, and then right here on the edge of her face I'm just going to dab a little bit so it looks like it's a little bit darker on the edge. And I'm going to grab R20. I'm going to touch down on the top of my 22 and just spread that circle out just a little bit more. Same for this side. And then I'm going to take R30 and just do it again, just lighten the edge of that little circle up. And then for this side, I think I'll actually take my R20 and go over that just a little bit more. Like that. And then I'm going to take my E00, and I'm just going to brush in from the side. And I still had a little bit of a line left there from before, so it's perfect that I'm just going to go over that again. And I'll soften that up this time. And I'm going to take E000. and just brush over her entire face. Like that. And then I also want to give her a little bit of a definition of a nose, so I'm going to take my E21, and on this side over here, I'm going to start where her nose, she has a little line already, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a shadow like that. So it looks like she's got a little bit of an indentation right there. So while I have these colors out, I'm going to take my R20 and I'm going to color this rabbit's nose, just so I don't have to worry about it. And then her cheek's looking a little patchy over here, so I'm going to go ahead and flick over it just a little bit more with my R20. Just give it a little bit more circly there. Like that. That looks good. Then we're going to do her hair. So for her hair, we're going to use E17, 15, and 13. I'm going to start with E17. And let's start right up here at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and take my E17, and I'm just going to go from the crown of her head and flick in some dark shadow. That at the top, that looks good. And then I'm going to go up from the bangs. And you can turn your girl around too. I usually turn mine every which way when I'm coloring by myself. I don't just leave it straight. I have to move everything. And then right up here, she's got a little bit of hair showing through the bow. I'm going to put a little bit of that in there. And then down here, she's got some color. Let's add some hair down here. Some shadows at the bottom. And her hair kind of changes direction down here. So let's just go like that. And then let's go ahead and do this side over here too. Okay, that looks good so far. Then I'm going to grab E15. I'm going to do just exactly the same thing. So I'm going to go up here at the crown. And we're just going to add some color on top. And I'm trying to keep my pen going in the direction her hair is going. I wouldn't want to be brushing sideways. I want to keep her hair strands going in the same direction that it would grow. Like that. Oh, don't forget this little section right over here behind that little bow. And then we're going to get down here. I'm going to go ahead and fill in this section right behind her ear right there. Right here. Same for this side. Fill in underneath. And then flick up from the bottom here. I think I'll put a little bit right around her ear again on this side. Then over here where her bow is touching her hair, I'm going to go ahead and flick down from that just a bit. Okay, and that leaves us with E13, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. And you could leave some white in there if you like that. Okay, and then after I get all done with her hair, I go back with my darkest color, so in this case it's E17, and I just add a few streaks back in. My streaks are usually, they don't go over the last streaks, and they are usually longer. So they go past the last section the last time I put the color down. I'm going to add a little bit more over here. Got a little crazy there. Now let's pop down and do her skirt, and for that we're going to use BG57, BG53. So I've grabbed my BG57 first, and I just want to go along the edge of her shirt. And if you don't use your pen very much, it's going to be really wet, so be careful. This is a color I don't use very much, so thought I'd warn you there. So I'm just going to go like that. Then I'm going to grab my BG53, And I'm going to touch down on top of 57. And I'm just going to flick that color out. And I'm going to go this way just so I don't go outside the lines. And I'm going to go over it one more time just to soften that line. And then I want to add a little bit more shadow in there, so I'm going to go back again with my BG57 and just add that, a line right next to her skirt or her shirt, and then put these little pleats back in there just a little bit. And these colors I also use to do the butterflies, so I'm going to go ahead and grab those. As long as we got them out, we might as well color those too. So I'm going to take my BG57 to start, and I'm just going to flick a little bit of color onto each of these butterfly wings. And do this side. I'm going to turn my butterfly again here. And do these. Okay. And then I'm going to grab BG53. And I want to go right over the top of that color, add a little bit more. And then do this side. And do this side down here. Okay, and then I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm just going to flick it over both colors and pull up towards the end, just to soften that edge a little bit more. On this one, I think I went up a little bit more, so I'm going to grab my BG53 again, and I'm going to add a little bit more color to this wing here. I don't think I had it quite so far, and I need to turn it a little bit more. I don't think I had it quite so far down last time. Okay, now I'll take my colorless blender and brush over both colors and pull out past the butterfly wing. And let's do this side. And if you didn't like it quite that white, you could take your colorless blender and your BG53 and you could pick up a little bit of color on the end of your colorless blender and then swipe over those colors to add a little bit of light color in there. Uh-oh, I wonder who's here. The dogs are freaking out. And then I'm just going to use up the rest of my ink, so I'm going to swirl my brush around a little bit. I think I'll maybe do a little bit of that over here on this wing. Oh, it's a UPS man. Okay, that one looks pretty good. Maybe add a little bit more on this side. And I'm going to use the rest of the ink up, so I'm going to swirl down here just a little bit. There, that looks pretty good. And then when I get done, I'll add some glitter to those wings. So next, let's do the butterfly bodies, and for that we're going to use Y26 and Y21. So I'm going to go in and use my Y26, and I'm just going to color the heads of all the bodies. And then I'm going to take and add a little bit of shadow to their body. So let's go ahead and do that. and then I'm going to fill it in with Y21. And that's all I did to the butterflies, and then I cut them out later, so I wasn't worried if I went outside of the lines. And I didn't, when I cut them out, I cut their antennae off because it was just too hard to keep them on there. So now let's go and do some yellow over here on our girl. And for that, I used my Y26 and Y21. So let's add some color to her hair bow. And let's do the collar of her shirt as long as we got this color out. And this side's more in shadow, so I'm going to fill that side in. And I'm just going to add a little bit, but I'll leave a little white space there. I'm going to take Y21 to fill in that little white space. And then we're going to go up here and fill in our hair bows. I'm going to go over that edge of that line just a little bit more, soften it up. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now let's go down here and color her shoes. So again, I'm going to grab Y26. And she's got a little dip in the back of her shoe, so I'm going to color that in. Then I'm going to add a little bit right along the edge of this shoe and up here on the top. Same for this one. We're going to go along the bottom and the back, like that. And then we're going to take Y21 and fill it in. So you touch down on top of your Y26 and pull that color into the middle. I got still a little bit of a line there, so I'm going to go back over it again. And we'll do this side. And brush right over that edge. And again, I have a line, so I'm going to go ahead and go over it again. Like that. Next, let's go up here and do her shirt, and for that we're going to use R85, 83, and 81. I'm going to start with R85 and add some shadows. So let's go right next to this cute little rabbit's head, and up her sleeve right here, and under her chin a little bit. And then she's got just a little bit of her shirt showing where the rabbit's ear is. I'm going to fill that in. I don't want to mess with that anymore, so I'm just going to fill it in. And then over here on this side, she's got a little bit of sleeve under her hair. Then I want to go down next to her body and along the bottom of the sleeve. And then her hair is kind of resting on it, so I'm going to go ahead and do just a little bit right next to her hair. And then for this side of her shirt, I want to do right down along the side. And she's got some little lines there, some wrinkles, so I'm going to go ahead and go down those. Like that. And then this side, I'm going to do just a tiny line along the edge. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to grab R83. And over here, she's got a little bit of shirt showing, so I'm going to add just a tiny dab next to the rabbit's face. And then we're going to brush this up so I can leave just a little bit of white showing on top of her sleeve, so I can add my 81. Over here, we're going to brush on top of this side. And again, I want to leave a little bit of room for my 81, so I'm going to leave the inside there uncolored. Like that. Leave a little shiny space. This. And I can see when I was coloring my blue that I forgot this little patch right here, so I'm going to have to come back and do that. Go next to that line just one more time. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to take R81 and fill this in. Go up here and fill in the top of her shirt. Fill in this middle section. fill in the middle section of this part of her shirt. And I'm going to go over it again just because I have a line there still. And soften that up like that. Okay, I'm liking that, but I think I'll go in here and maybe add my shadow back in on this side just a little bit with my darkest, which was R85. I want to give those pleats just a little bit more shadows on this side, just a little bit. So next, let's go do her socks and this little cute rabbit here. And for that, I'm going to use C0. So I'm going to go down here with my C0 for my socks, and I'm going to add a little bit of shadow line right next to her leg. And then I'm going to go up just a little bit on each of those little creases on her sock. I'm going to go along her shoe, where her shoe is tucked in her sock right here. And this side, she's got a little bit of a crease right here, so I'm going to add a little shadow in the crease. And right here where it dips in. And then on this sock, same thing. I want to get a little bit here where it's like next to her leg. It looks like it kind of dips into her foot. Get this side. And then I'm just going to lightly go right along these little wrinkles on her shoe. And right next to her shoe. So I want the sock to stay white. I'm just adding a little bit of shadow in there. And then for the sole of her shoe, I'm just going to take my C0 and just go completely along the edge. Let's color that in. And then same for the rabbit. I just wanted to add a little bit of shadows in here. So I'm going to go right along the edge of his bottom of his ear. Same for this side. And then for his leg, I'm going to go under her hand just a little tiny bit, and then go right along the edge of his leg. Like this. I'm just adding a few shadows in there. I'm not really giving him any color. I just want to give him a little bit, the appearance that he has a little bit of color. And then for his face, I'm going to go ahead and flick just a little bit up from the edge. Same for this side. And then where his eyes are, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a brush across the top of his nose. And that's all I did for the color on that cute little rabbit. But he's also got this little ladybug right here on his ear. So I'm going to take R24, and I'm just going to color that in. And that's all there was to for our main image. But that still leaves us with our little birdhouses here. So let's go color those. So let's start with the wooden part of the birdhouses, and for that I'm going to use E44, 43, and 42. So I'm going to take my E44 first, and I just want to add some shadows. And so this side of the birdhouse is tipped down, so I'm going to add a little bit right along this edge on both sides, or on both birdhouses. And then on this one you can see a little bit of the underside of the roof. I'm going to color that in. Same for this one. And then there's already some lines here, so I'm going to go right along the edge of this roof, and I'm going to go down those lines. Same for this side. I'm just going to go along the edge of the roof and then add those lines in there. And there's a cute little line right here, and then she's got a little bit where you can see kind of like the shadow on this side. And I'm actually going to take and cover this whole, looks like the whole side of the birdhouse in a little bit. And then let's add a little bit of darkness on those lines on the roof. We're going to go up here and we're going to do the same thing up here. So I'm going to go right along the edge of that roof and go down some of those lines. Let's add a little bit of shadow in there. And let's do this little line right here. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to grab 43. And I want to brush a little bit on this side and on that side. And let's add a little bit of color in here. And I'm just kind of, well, I better get this side too, or the bottom of the birdhouse a little bit, and I'm just kind of going over the lines that I just laid down and softening the edge of that color. And the stick right here. Oops, and then I forgot the pole. Let's get a little bit on the pole there. Okay, and then I'm going to fill it in with E42. I'm just going to go right over the whole birdhouse. Oops. And I'm going to color the inside of the holes red. So if you color over them, that's fine. The red will cover that up. Because I colored right over the top of it. And we don't do the stick. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my R24 and I'm going to color this little ladybug. And then I want to color the inside of these little circles. And I don't know why I chose to make them red. I think just to add a little bit more red to my card. I just wanted them to be able to see them a little bit more. And then for the flower down here, I made these petals on this flower red, and then on this flower I made the bigger petals red. And you have to be very careful because they're really small, so I'm just barely using the tip of my pen. And then I'm going to grab Y26 and I'm going to do these littler petals on this flower. And then I'm going to take Y21 and I'm going to fill in the center of this one. And then for the ground, I took G85 and I colored this little leaf. There's a couple of little cute grass blades over here. And then for the ground, I just took my pen and gave it a little swirl like that. And then I cut the whole thing out for the card. So now I'm going to take my Spick of Glitter pen and I'm going to add some sparkles to her hair. So I've got my clear pen. And I just go in and add some sparkles. And I keep my glitter pen going in the same direction as her hair. It just adds little sparkles on there, and I know you can't see it on there. And then I took my Sharpie white paint pen, and I always shake it with the lid on. And then I wanted to add some polka dots to her little bow up here. So shake it with the lid on, and then go in, add some polka dots. And the pen, my white paint pen, it adds, the harder you press the pen, the bigger the dot you get. So you want to be careful, like that. And then let's go ahead and add some shadows or some clouds around her. So I've got my Tim Holtz Distress nonstick craft mat here, and I've got my crusty cloud template that I've used a million times, and you can download that on the side of the blog if you don't have one. And so then I'm going to use my Ranger Tumbled Glass Distress ink, and to make clouds I set my cloud template so I don't get it on the girl. I set my cloud template, let me zoom out a little bit more here, on part of her. Like right here, I don't want to color her leg, so I'm going to set my cloud over that, and then I don't have to worry about getting any color on that. So you're just going to dab into your paint, or into your distress ink, and then I start on top of my template with my sponge dauber, and I just brush off of the edge. Get a little bit over here. Okay, and then I look to see how my cloud looks, and then I move my template, and I don't, because these clouds kind of go down, I don't want the next set to go down, so I'm going to go the opposite direction. So again, I move it so that the cloud is covering her up. And let's do a little bit on this side. It worked out perfect because on this side it's covering up the part of that rabbit. And then you're going to move your template. Remember, you don't want to have the clouds be the same, so I'm going to go ahead and move it. And I'm not going to dip my pad again. I'm just going to go up, brush off the side here. And I'm going to be really careful because her arm's right there. I don't want her arm to be blue. So there I've got another little cloud. And I'm going to move my cloud so that it goes above her arm. I'm going to give it a little bit more ink. And brush up here. And let's do this side. And let's check what it looks like. And then let's maybe cover up her entire face like this. And then brush off. that, and then we're going to look at it, see what it looks like. That looks pretty good. But I think I'll add just a little bit over here in the corner. And then look, and maybe a little bit over in this corner, a little bit up here. Okay, and I'm liking how those clouds look, so I'm going to leave it like that, and let's put our card together. Alright, so I have all my parts here, and I don't have to worry about anything tucking underneath anything, so we can just put some stuff together. So I'm going to go ahead and glue her down to her mat first. So I'll get my trusty tape runner. And I'll stick her to her mat. And this. And then set her over here, and let's move all this stuff. And let's go ahead and glue this yellow piece to the tan piece, or you could use the word side too if you like that side best. That's what I love about double-sided paper is you can flip it over and try out a different one. Okay, I'm going to adhere this to this tan piece. Okay, and then we're going to take the tan piece and stick it to the card base. Okay, and then you'll want to decide how you want your card to open. So you want to do that before you start sticking anything else on, so you make sure it's all the way you want it to go. So next goes my little notebook paper one, and this is my favorite things die. It's really cool. It just punches this out, and I think it'd be perfect in some of those Project Life little binder things or the snap book. So I've already stamped my sentiment with VersaFine Onyx Black ink just to save time. So we're going to go ahead and glue this down. And I also used, when I stamped my sentiment, I used my Stamp-A-Majig so I got it straight. Because I stamped it the first time and it was off and it drove me crazy, so I suggest the Stamp-A-Majig if you're crazy like me and like it to be straight. So this we're going to put on, I have it right here. That looks good. Then next comes this cute piece with a butterfly, or you could use this blue, that's really fun. And that's one of the reasons I chose to do her skirt, the bluish green color, is because this paper had the bluish green on it. And then this piece, I want it to be able to see my words, so I kind of just made sure I was off the end, and it's not straight. So I'm going to do, actually I think I'm going to straighten it up just a little bit more. How about like right there? That looks pretty good. And then next is the polka dot piece. And the polka dots is not on there straight either. So I'm going to put that one. And it kind of hangs off the edge of the brown and onto the white part. I'm going to move it. Oh, I think I'll move it over just a little bit more. Maybe right here. That looks good. And then came the little border piece. And I think I need my liquid glue. Alright, so let's get the liquid glue here and put that on here. Just because my tape runner is a little too wide to fit, just run it down the side. But you could just be careful putting it on there. And what in the heck? Evidently it was dried in there a little bit. Let's just put a little bit of this. And this would be nice with the liquid glue too, because I'll be able to move it around just a little bit. It won't dry instant. Okay, so I got my liquid glue. I'm going to stick this on here. And this piece is bigger than the pink piece. So it's going to stick off just a little bit. But I want to make sure that it doesn't stick too far off of I don't want it to go off the edge of my card. So I'm going to move it around until it fits onto the card a little bit, and I better move it down just a little bit more, I think. And I'm going to get that, glue that on like that. And then next we're going to put the girl. So I've added my pop dots to the back to save time, and I peeled the little stickers off because it never fails. Those take forever for me to get off. And we're going to put her, right here like this. Okay, she looks really good. So next I have, you have your butterflies and you have the little birdhouse. So the little birdhouse, I'll show you in a second how I cut those out. But to the butterflies, you can either cut them out first or paint them first and then cut them out. It's up to you. But I used some smooch glitz on the butterfly wings. I applied some frost to all the butterfly wings and then I let it dry. And then I came back and I add some Mystified just to the really shadowed parts down here at the bottom, so it had some blue sparkles too. And then I cut each of those butterflies out, and then I'm going to show you my finished card just so you can see to save time. You don't want to watch me cut those out. That will take forever because they're really dinky. So here is my birdhouse. Right here, and I cut around it and I left a little bit of white because I wanted the little ladybug up here to have his antennae still, so I made sure to just leave that white. And then I've popped that up on some dimensionals. And then here's my butterflies, and I did cut those all the way out, and then I just, for this one up here, I just put some little bit of liquid glue on his body so the rest of his wings could be free up here. He's completely suspended and he's got some great glitter on his wings. And same for this one, I just glued down the center so that his wings are completely free and they can be popped up or smushed down, whichever you want. And then this little bitty one, I again glued his body and left the wings so they could be flipped up, but it looks like he's about ready to land on her shoe. So that'll save you some time. I'll cut those out and add them to my other card later, but I just didn't want you to have to sit there and wait for me to get all that cut out. But that is our September 2013 monthly card kit for Copic coloring using Sassy Cheryl's image called True Friendship. And I hope you had fun coloring with me today. And if you have a question, just leave it in the comment box and I will get back to you on that. But thanks for coloring with me, and we'll see you next time. Bye.